Why are so many people pissed off at Dave Ramsey this week?
I mean, if you're making 12 in good mutual funds and the S&P is average 11.8, and if inflation for the last 80 years has averaged 4%, if you make 12 and you need to leave 4% in there for inflation raises, that leaves you 8. I'm perfectly comfortable drawing 8.
Well, if you didn't see it, I'll link it below. There's about a 10-minute clip from one of the episodes he did back on November 2nd, where he's talking with a caller about basically what's the safe withdrawal rate in retirement. And during this clip, Dave just kind of goes off on a rant for just minutes about financial nerds saying one thing and they're all being wrong and stupid. And he's basically saying that if you're making 12% every year, if you're 100% invested in the stock market, then you should have an 8% safe withdrawal rate in retirement. And during this rant, he even takes one of his own employees and completely throws them under the bus in public, which to me is pretty despicable leadership and management if you're the business owner and the boss. Just publicly kind of embarrassing one of the people who work for you, especially since you don't really know what they're talking about and you kind of get wrong what they were talking about in their video that the caller's mentioning. But let's get back to the larger point. Why were so many financial professionals and really just people in general ticked off at what Dave was saying? In general, it's because his advice of 8% being a safe withdrawal rate in retirement is just flat out dangerous. And it's dangerous because of something called sequence of return risk. You see, what Dave is looking at is the long term, over 30 years, 40 years, since its inception, the S&P 500's long-term average returns being 11.8%, close to 12%. He's saying that since that's the case, you should easily be able to take out 8% and leave 4% for inflationary increases. And the problem with it is he's not including sequence of return risk, which basically means the way the stock market works, it goes up and down yearly. You're not getting 12% every year. Some years you might get 25, some years you might get 2, some years you might lose 10. It's all over the map, and also we don't know what it's going to be in the long run. And that's why taking into account sequence of return risk, which is the risk of you losing money early on in retirement due to stock market or asset volatility and loss. And when you go to sell assets to generate the income you need, those assets you sold at a loss or a lower point are never going to be able to recover to the point that they were. So what that does over the long run is it substantially increases your risk of running out of money in your retirement accounts. Now, the really kind of disturbing thing about this clip is that I feel like Dave knows better. I don't know if it's his ego or his pride or just his anger getting the best of him or just maybe not ever wanting to contradict things he said in the past. But he's got to know about sequence of return risk and how it can impact people when they're looking to withdraw money for retirement. And the reason I say that is because listen to this clip at the end of his kind of tirade when he's talking about that 12% return.
And I'm easily making 12% on my money. Easily. Average throughout a decade.
Yeah.
See, right there, he mentions for really the first time in his whole rant that 12% number is, averaged over time. It's not every year, but for the whole rest of his rant, he's talking about that 12% as it being like clockwork every single year, because that's how he's basing his 8%.
$1 million should create for you an $80,000 income, boys and girls. So you should, perpetually, like if forever, you should be able to pull $80,000 forever and never destroy it.
And that's just wrong. You have to have other types of guardrails in place to maybe adjust your spending in retirement to match it to the realities on the ground. And the final thing he's getting wrong here is he keeps talking about, good mutual funds, S&P 500 being 12%. When approaching and at retirement, most people have reduced the amount of exposure they have to the stock market precisely to try to protect against short-term volatility so that they don't have huge swings in their retirement portfolio that are going to affect the long-term viability of their retirement spending plan. So what do you all think? I mean, is Dave just completely off his rocker? Am I wrong? I mean, am I not looking deep enough? Personally, I think I'm looking a heck of a lot deeper than Dave is. He's really just looking at surface level numbers. And I get it, he's trying to affect people's behavioral change, but there's a lot of people out there who take Dave Ramsey's advice at face value. They don't really think about the bigger point and behavioral change he's trying to make people do. They're just looking at what he's saying and doing it. So if they're hearing Dave say 8% safe withdrawal rate is what you should be taking in retirement, there's a lot of people out there who could be doing it. And I think Dave needs to be more responsible and humble about the type of advice that he's giving to folks out there. He needs to check his ego and pride more often. And remember, he's not just running an entertainment show. He's actually telling a lot of people who maybe aren't as financially sophisticated what they need to be doing financially in their life. And outside of the debt snowball and the spending habits that he helps people generate, once you start getting into retirement planning and investing, I mean, to me, the fact of the matter is Dave is just wrong. But what do you think? Am I right? Is Dave wrong? Let me know.